Hey, what's up, Rasan? Hey, man, getting this done. Uh, you wanted to know my story. Um, my story begins with my birth. Normally, you think of mother and a father. They get married and they want to have a great celebration of their marriage. They have a child. My parents didn't do that. My parents got married because they wanted to get out of the house. I was the way to get out of the house. So from the moment I was born, it wasn't out of love, it was out of a desire to get something that my parents wanted. I remember being about 5 years old and my great grandmother telling me I wasn't planned. I was absolutely devastated because here I had this perfect vision in my head of my mother and my father planning me and decorating my room, and all of that was a bunch of bull. It was to get out of the house. So from the moment I entered this world, I didn't have anything in my favor except for being born. But I didn't realize that at the time, obviously. So as I grew up, first 2 years of my life, man, I don't remember, obviously, but my parents fought all the time. I was told that I cried all the time because of their fighting. When I was 2 years old, my parents got divorced. I grew up through my youth, my parents constantly fighting, constantly at each other. And I grew up very depressed. As I grew up, I didn't want anything to do with other people. I had trouble associating with people. I didn't know how to act. I grew up very angered, very depressed. um, I was very withdrawn, and it was definitely difficult growing up in at junior high and high school. In junior high, it was absolutely hard for me to interact with other peers, and it culminated my freshman year of high school, because some of the worst times of my life happened. On my birthday, my freshman year, I had just turned 14 years old. My grandmother, who I love more than anything, passed away. She passed away on my birthday at almost the same time that I was born. I go out every so often and I see my grandmother's headstone and it has my birth date on it. But that means she's my guardian angel. Also that year, I literally went in an outward spiral. I felt lost. I felt disconnected from my family. I felt disconnected from society. I threatened to commit suicide. And because of that, I spent a week of my freshman year of high school committed to a local psychiatric hospital, where you go in and they literally take your tennis shoe strings off your tennis shoes, not because of anything other than they're afraid you're going to kill yourself or that maybe your roommate's going to kill yourself. I remember that first night in the hospital scared me to death. I mean, I realized that I wanted to live, and never again did I ever contemplate suicide. Now, it took me a week to get out of there, and even though I realized I wanted to live, I still missed my grandmother. I was still deeply depressed, and on. Throughout my high school years, I felt very disconnected with people, and I had a struggle with everything. So I turned to alcohol. I became addicted my senior year of high school. Became very depressed, and alcohol was the only way I could get out of it. Then I had this idea after I failed at college. I guess I say now I didn't fail. I just, at that point in my life, I took a different path. Joined the military, and I found out that you do not join the military to try to kick the habit of being an alcoholic, because they will find out, and you will be out. I got out. I got to be honest. I met somebody from another country. She came to visit me, and she stayed illegally for a short amount of time. Lucky we didn't get in trouble, but that situation made me kick alcoholism. Got help, got sober, been sober since just shortly after 2000 began. She went home. I ended up finding somebody who became my first wife, and I got married. However, after that marriage, after my first son was born, my writing career began, and began writing children's books. Shortly after writing my first book, my grandma, or both my grandfathers, passed away within a week of each other. My grandpa Fox passed away on Christmas Eve, and my grandpa Doherty passed away a week later on New Year's Day. And it was at that point that my wife had gotten sick and lost her job. I got laid off. We became broke. And slowly over the next few years, our marriage spiraled out of control. Had 3 wonderful kids. Have a daughter who is in heaven. Lost her right before she was born. Her heart quit beating. Got divorced after my 3rd son, Rylan, was born. My wife had cheated on me. Spent a few years kind of not knowing where I was going. Ended up meeting somebody who became my second wife. Went through basically what I call hell and high water with her. And after realizing that people aren't always who they seem to be, filed for my second divorce. I've watched my mother be diagnosed with cancer and beat cancer. I've been wrongfully sued and lost for something that I didn't even do. I've been told no probably 100 times as a children's author. I've been broke. I've been homeless. But you know what? I didn't quit. I didn't quit. I became a best-selling author of my 3rd children's book, Barney and Lexi Lost in Lawrenceville. I've written 9 books. As a photographer, I traveled my home county here in Illinois. I drove 6,124 miles, all within this county in 1 year, taking pictures of the entire county through the entire seasons of the year. And I'm putting them into a book called Every Road, Every Season. I became a speaker. You would have never seen me do this 5 years ago, but I became a speaker. I started going to high schools and I started motivating people. And I like to use the term inspire. I like to inspire people with my story. You know, I survived a car wreck. I mean, people need to hear stories from other people who've made it. I mean, my gosh, if I would have heard a story like what I was telling, like I'm telling kids now, if I'd have had that empowerment as a high school senior, I could have then. It was in me then. But this wasn't there. So what have I done this year? Dude, last year I lost 50 pounds. I do 20 push-ups a day. I run 3 times a week. I got myself a life coach. I've got a mentor who gave me the first book. I got his first book that he ever wrote. And somebody I really look up to. I've started circling myself with friends who are wanting the same thing in life. Because I'll never forget the night that I decided to change. My second wife and I had a really big fight. And it went off. And it said, enough is enough. It's time for a change. And it's time for the change. A change that's never going to stop. I expect to have a life where I inspire my kids. I leave a legacy for others to be inspired. To travel and see things when I want to gain knowledge from those experiences, to make wonderful memories, and to not die from a life unlived. I'm not going to die at the end of a life that's not lived. It just ain't going to happen. Thanks for being around.